What up? Welcome to Selvala, Explore Returns EDH deck. This is what I like to call Selesnya Toolbox, because that's all this deck really is. This deck started with me wanting to build Yosharan and then being like, wow, this is a weird deck, I don't want to build it. And then it just turned to Selvala. So, with Selvala, 3 mana, 2/4, alright stat line. Has Parley, so you tap her, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, add 1 green and you gain 1 life. Then each player draws a card. So this does like kind of group hug stuff with everybody drawing. It ramps you, it's life gain. It's just like generic good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the entire deck. It's doing a little bit of stacksy stuff. It's doing a little bit of just like go wide, go fast, Selesnya, and then there's life gain. Artifacts are pretty straightforward. They're not running many. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Erd Heirloom. I think this card's crazy. The price indicates it because it's a rare from the new set. Swiftfoot Boots and Talisman of Unity. Just very basic mana rocks because being at 3, if you look at this little mana curve here, we're running 3, 4 one drops that will just like ramp us on into Selvala turn 2 ideally. Also, we're sorting my mana, and yeah, we're just gonna keep it like that because sure, why not? I mean, yeah, Absence Pilgrim, it's Land of War Elf, but it adds white instead. So, I mean, yeah, in Selesnya it's fine. Elvish Mystic, Essence Warden is in here for life gain because, like I said, we're doing some life gain stuff. It supports the commander. Fintorn Elves, Gilded Goose. This is a one-time. It's kind of just like a one-time mana dork. I put this in because, I mean, there are other mana dorks I can play, but they're significantly more expensive, and all you really care about is getting Selvala down on 3. Once that hits, they're all like pretty irrelevant. Land War Elves for Land War Elves, and Soul Warden for same as Essence Warden. You just want a little bit of life gain. Yeah, we're running Gaddock Teague. Surprise. So when you're not running a lot of non-creature spells, turns out taxing everybody with CMC 4 or greater can't be cast non-creature is pretty good. Also, non-creatures with X can't be cast. Yeah, it's just one of those stacks pieces that I kind of put into the deck because I'm like, yeah, we're kind of going into the stacks a little bit, so it's worth playing. It's a very strong card and do a lot of strategies, and that's a good thing. Next, Catilda Dawnheart Prime. Protection from werewolves. Humans you control have tap, add 1 mana of this creature's colors. Realistically, neither of these are used. I'm pretty sure humans aren't even the most played type in the deck. I believe it's elves. But it also just has 6 mana tap, put a 1/1 on each creature, which the deck wants to do as well. And that kind of works with life gain with a lot of cards. So yeah. Marvin's in here because you also want to be, you can just double Parley. It's a way to double Parley. Parleying using the commander's effect is very, very powerful. So we just want a lot of cards that let us do it a lot. Marvin essentially does it for us again. Malir's in here as a protection piece from poison. If you get 1 or more poison counters, instead you only get 1. You can also exile her, choose a creature, and when it's put into a graveyard, you return to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it's a little bit of protection. Seekers of the Skybreak, tap, untap creature. Same as Marvin, it's just a way to get another parlay because the deck can ramp. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. This is one of those OG stacks pieces. Very soft stacks, mind you. Non-creatures cost 1 more to cast. When you're running 42 creatures, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Trelasara, there we go, I got that. Moon Dancer. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on her and scry 1. So this is 1/1 counters. This affects life gain. This lets you scry 1, so you can more reliably find Parley triggers off Selvala. It also just helps you get to the good cards that you need faster. Angel of Vitality. It's kind of just a 3 mana. You would gain 2 life instead of 1 every time you gain 1, and she's a 4/4 flyer. I think this card is very easily replaceable, but yeah, it's in the deck right now. Aven Interrupter, little stacks piece. When this creature enters, exile target spell, it becomes swatted. Yeah, not actually a stacks piece. I'm wrong. It's a counter spell, kind of. Yeah, it's a 3 mana 2/2 flash flying. It's kind of counter spelly. It's kind of utility based. You could say it's a toolbox card. That's what I would say. Boromir, Warden of the Tower. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell, and you can sack it to give creatures you control indestructible until end of turn. And you can just ignore the ring tempts you because I don't want to play with that mechanic. I don't think you can actually ignore that, but yeah. It's a good free counter spell into like combo decks and stuff, which is nice. Quetzal, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, a little bit of protection for when you're going off. And whenever one or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this card advantage with your 1/1 counter cards, and its protection on your turn, which is great. One of the third path, ETB, destroy an artifact or enchantment. It's the main reason you're playing this card. Sure, you can tap it, have you and an opponent draw a card. That could be like a cool little, like aristocrat politic piece thing, but yeah, you mainly just want the ETB to destroy something. Miri has first strike. Whenever he attacks, each opponent can't block more than one combat with one creature's combat. And as long as it's tapped, no more than one creature can attack you. So it's protection. It's also good for swinging for a game if he's on board and you have another play, which we'll go into later. Reki's in here because if you haven't noticed, there's also a kind of big Legends sub-theme going on. So just whenever you cast a legendary spell, draw a card. Just a lot of value off this card. Pretty good. Thalia, Heretic Cathar. This is another Thalia pseudo kind of soft stacks piece. Creatures and non-basics your opponents control enter tapped, which is nice because it means you can hit them more, or you're just slowing them down by one turn by having non-basics enter tapped. Beast Whisperer. Whenever you cast a creature, draw a card. Good card advantage, and yeah, it's essentially just good card advantage because you're running so many creatures. Captain Sisay in the deck, you can tap her, search for a legendary card, reveal that card, put it in your hand, and shuffle. A lot of your stacks pieces are legendary creatures, so she can just tutor up whatever you need in a specific scenario. If not, she can just tutor a useful card that is good for you in whatever moment you're playing. I think it's just a very strong card. Emil the Blessed is in the deck. 4 mana, 4/4. Usually you're doing the first effect of paying 3 and flickering a creature. This is more in here because of the second line, which is whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay green or white. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on it. So this... Oh, if it's a unicorn, you put 2. That's irrelevant because it's the only unicorn in the deck. Either way, yeah, this is just kind of like a 1/1 counter thing. I guess exiling a creature is kind of pseudo protection. If somebody targets it with like a path, you could just exile it in response, and the spell fizzles. So that's nice. Lathiel the Bounty. Oh, I was wrong. We're running another unicorn. It's the next one. That's embarrassing. 4 mana, 2/2 with lifelink. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, which you will with your Parley, with your Essence Wardens, with whatever, distribute up to that many 1/1 counters among any number of other target creatures. So you're going wide, you're gaining a lot of life. At the end of your turn, you're distributing a bunch of 1/1 counters onto all your creatures. It's good. Lenore, Autumn Sovereign. At the beginning of combat in your turn, put a 1/1 counter on up to one target creature you control. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. Very easy to draw a card with this effect. And yeah, it's just a good card. Sereth, the Viper's Fang. Other tapped creatures have Death Touch. Other untapped creatures have Hexproof, which is useful. Not too much with your commander because it's a tap effect, but for attacking it's nice. Mainly it's in here for 1 tap, untap a target creature or land, which is useful for your Parley effect. Shalai, Voice of Plenty. You, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures you control have Hexproof. Nice little protection. Even protects you from like burn and stuff, which is cool. And you can pay 6, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, which fits the theme of the deck. Sigarda, Font of Blessing is in here as well. Flying, other permanents you control have Hexproof, and you may look at the top card of your library anytime. Oh yeah, this also has the creatures. I just want to make sure. Yeah, you may cast angel spells and human spells from the top of your library, which not super relevant in the deck, but it's possible to see a human on top of your deck, so it's not too crazy. And yeah, you're mainly playing it for just the other permanents have Hexproof. Trostani, Selesnya's Voice is just 2 green, 2 white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Looking through the deck when I was originally building it, I did notice most creatures had more toughness than power. and it works with the whole life gain strategy, so I kind of put it in. You can also pay 3, tap it to populate, which is make a token of a copy of a creature token. I think there's like one card in the deck that makes creature tokens, so that's not really important, but it's life gain, so that's cool. Yasharn, like I said, the card I originally wanted to build a deck around or build a deck with, is just when he enters, search your library for basic forest and a basic plains, reveal them, put them into your hand, and players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. This is just good for all those degenerate, like, typically black players that are, like, playing Yawgmoth or doing whatever, paying life, sacking, gaining more life in the back. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like sacrifice when people sacrifice things, especially with an edict on board. But yeah, this is just a very solid card in the specific matchups. If not, it enters, it finds you 2 basics, and it's a 4/4. So worst case scenario, it's still pretty playable. Karametra, the deck plays really fast with the mana that you're getting from your commander, so you're gonna go wide pretty quickly if you have this on board early. I've gotten this probably like as early as turn 3, which is pretty crazy. You're just gonna ramp a lot. So yeah, as long as your devotion is green and white less than 7, it's not a creature, standard god effect. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a force or plains card, note non-basic, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So the deck's running a lot of basics, but like you can be running fetches, you can be running, or not fetches, you can be running the shock lands, you could be running the surveil lands. You could just be playing a bunch of the like dual lands that enter tapped, which I'm not because I don't like those lands, but you can. Sigarda, Host of Hurons, 5 mana, 5/5, flying hexproof. Spells and abilities your opponent control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. That's nice for dealing with, I don't know, like the Flare of Malice, the black. I believe that's a new black card. Not new necessarily, but sacrifice a black creature. Each opponent sacrifices their biggest creature. Obviously, any edict effect that's going to affect your board with like token strategies, this plays around, which is nice. Yeah, good card for specific matchups. Also, if not, it's just a 5/5 with flying hexproof, so it'll get damage done. Aragorn and Arwen Wed. 6 mana, 3/6, not great. I guess the 6 is nice for healing 6 if you have the other card. And then whenever it enters or attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, gain 1 life for each other creature you control. Just a lot of life gain, a lot of 1/1 counters, and that's kind of what the deck wants to do. So yeah, it's a pretty good card. Hamza, Guardian of Arishan. This was another card that I originally saw and I wanted to build a deck around, and then I kind of was able to fit it into this deck, which was nice. So he's a 6 mana 5/5, which costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it, which will typically be a lot. And then creature spells you cast cost 1 less for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. Hopefully this is just, you're playing it with like 3 or 4 1/1 counters on board. You're discounting everything by that much. He's really cheap as well. I think it's pretty powerful in this deck. Kodama of the East Tree is 6 mana 6/6, reach whenever another permanent you control enters. If it wasn't put on the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser mana value from your hand on the battlefield. Also has partner. It does cool stuff in like higher power CDH decks with just being green, I guess. But yeah, this just lets you cheat in something whenever you play something from anywhere actually. So you play a big card, you can play it a land from your hand, you can play it a smaller creature, which is nice. Can give you just a lot of value. Avenger of Zendikar is in the deck for one reason, and one reason specifically. Actually, I guess 2 reasons. One of them is the upcoming card. Landfall, you make, or no, not landfall. When it enters, you make a bunch of 0/1 green plants equal to the amount of lands. And landfall, you put a 1/1 on each plant, which can do cool stuff with Karametra. But it's in here for 2 reasons. One, Elish Norn, other creature you control get +2/+2. Creature your opponents control get -2/-2. And ignoring, okay. Yeah, that's just one of the reasons. This is good because you're going wide. I'll get to the other one, I guess, in a bit when it shows up. Galton Mavrin, not why you're running it, but this is a cool card. It's just a 7 mana 12/12 with trample. Whenever you attack, you can either make a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, or X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. Or create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of attacking creatures. You ramp really quickly in this deck, so I kind of just put it in because it's a 7 mana 12/12 with trample that can make another 7, like another 12/12 with trample, or 12 1/1s with lifelink, so that's cool. Yeah, this is a cool card. I saw this card, I'm like, this is a cool card. It's not unobtainable to see that number, like that mana value early, so it's a pretty cool card. Absent is in here, kind of because I had one. I opened it from from this set in a Shadow Remastered, and I'm like, oh, I have this, and it's a cool top end card for the deck, so I kind of just put it in. There are a bunch of other cards you could play instead. It gives other creatures indestructible, other permanents you control indestructible, so that's cool. You can't be board wiped. Pretty cool. And the other reasons for Avengers Zendikar, boom, Craterhoof Behemoth. Again, just kind of a card I had sitting around. And I had an Avengers Zendikar, and I'm like, late game, this is fun. Whenever this creature enters, creatures you control gain trample, +X/+X until end of turn, or the number of creatures you control. So it's just a big kind of finisher. Also, to preface, this deck's not like low power. This is a pretty high power deck. Yeah. So if you play this at higher power tables and not like against precons. Don't be that guy. Onto the enchantments. Creature opponents control enter tapped, so a little stacks effect. But mainly whenever a creature an opponent controls enters, you gain 1 life. This is just like really solid in Commander because there's 4 players and you have 3 opponents. Let's say one player plays something on each of their turns. You're just gaining 3 life a cycle, which is pretty sick. So yeah, this pretty good card. Ashes of the Abhorrent. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or activate abilities of cards in graveyards. Completely fine for us because we don't have anything relevant to that. And then whenever a creature dies, you gain 1 life, a little bit of life gain, and yeah, no, just like there's just a really good stacks piece for us because it's completely irrelevant to us, which is the best kind of stacks piece, ones that don't affect us. Blind Obedience, 2 mana, extort, so you can just start kind of gaining 3 life if you're in a 4-player pod whenever you cast something for 1 white. And artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter tapped, which again, little kind of stacks piece. Rest in Peace. When this enchantment enters, exile all graveyards. Whenever a card or token will be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. This means it's a replacement effect. This means it gets around sacrifice value or when this creature dies value. And it's just graveyard hate in a deck where we don't care about graveyards. And look, it's Assassin's Creed. Everybody loves Assassin's Creed, right? Haha. I'm kidding. Nobody likes Assassin's Creed. Growing Rights of Itlimoc. Whenever it enters the top 4 cards of your library, you may reveal a creature card, put them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and then at the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 more creatures, transform Growing Rights of Itlimoc. This is just a nice kind of like, you search for a card and you can find a good creature card that might be useful to you. And you're running a lot, so you're pretty much never going to whiff. And then when it flips, which is very easy to have 4 more creatures, it kind of just becomes Gaia's Cradle. Taps for a green or taps for a green for each creature you control. So it's actually better than Gaia's Cradle. And it's, I don't know the math here, but what, like 900 divided by 300? Yeah, it's like 1/300th the price, kind of. So that's cool. Yeah. This is a pretty neat card. It generates a lot of mana too, which helps you ramp into your big things like Galta. Privileged Position is 5 mana. Other permanents you control have hexproof. Kind of simple. Just protection, like blanket protection for all your creatures, which is nice. On to the instance, we got Mana Tithe, because who doesn't love a counter spell in Selesnya? Right? Like, if you ever hit somebody with a Mana Tithe, it feels so good. It's a pretty fun card. I don't know. I don't think it's actually that great in the deck, but yeah, I put it in because I'm like, Mana Tithing somebody sounds really funny. Swords of Plowshare is just a really, really good removal spell. I mean, it's banned in Historic, so there you go. Exile target creature, its control against life equal to its power, which is pretty irrelevant to you. Or Mutation is 2 mana, destroy target enchantment. Create X/1/1 green sapling creature tokens, where X is the enchantment's mana value. This is nice for people that are also playing kind of stacksy stuff or just really strong enchantments. I mean, hey, 2 mana kill Omniscience make, 10 1/1s? Hey, that's a pretty good card. I'd play that card in most decks. Now, if they don't have Omniscience, it's a little bit worse. But still. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good card. Pretty cool. Unfortunately, only hits enchantments, but that's fine. Beast Within. Destroy target permanent. It's super generic. It even hits lands, which is cool when people are playing like really cringe lands. Same with Generous Grift. Just the same card, different color. Make a Stand. 3 mana creature you control. Get +1/+0. Gain indestructible until end of turn. I'm running quite a few protection from board wipe cards because with all the cards giving my creatures hexproof, the one downside is they're still vulnerable to a board wipe, so run a bunch of these effects. Like Unbreakable Formation, same thing. Creature you control, gain indestructible until end of turn. You can also, if you cast during your main phase, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. So this is just like in addition to they get indestructible. So it's a pretty cool finisher or a way to swing down at somebody without losing anything. Temple's under attack. It's a cool politics piece. You can have you and an opponent draw 2, but realistically it's 3 mana, protect creatures with indestructible until end of turn. Ignoring the lands for now, let's go to the sorceries. We're running a few. Nature's Rhythm is in here because I had one from a Tarkir pack, and it can tutor whatever I want and put it on the battlefield, which is pretty good when you're playing specific stacks pieces into specific decks. It's a good toolbox card. Genesis Waves in the deck because you're running a lot of permanents, and late game, if you have a lot of mana, might as well just cast this where like X equals 10, and you just put like 10 creatures on board. Maybe you see an Essence Warden and you get 10 life. It's pretty good. Fumigate, destroy all creatures, gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. This was kind of just a board wipe that I'm like, sure, I'll play that. Why not? I think there's better board wipes in white, but yeah. And then Tooth and Nail, 7 mana, essentially win the game late game. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle. And then if you pay an extra 2, you can put up 2 creature cards from your hand on the battlefield. I guess you could do either effect, pay 2 for the other. This does something really funny where late game, you can just search Avenger of Zendikar and Craterhoof Behemoth and then just play them. And then let's say you have like 8 or 9 lands on board, you just have like 100 plus power, but it's 9 mana to kind of hopefully win the game. So I think this is a pretty fun card. Also, you can find it to tutor out like an Avacyn, a Galta if you want, an Elish Norn, and do specific token strategies. Onto the lands, nothing crazy going on here. I'm only running 34 because realistically you only like super need to see 2 and a mana dork. And then your commander's just going to make enough mana. First land enters untapped as a 2. Canopy Vista is a forest plains, which is nice, and it also enters tapped unless you control 2 or more. Command Tower is Command Tower. Exotic Orchard is kind of fast mana. Also, people playing green or white at the table, pretty common. Forests are forests. Gavney Township, this one's an interesting one. You can pay 4, tap its add 1/1 counter each creature you control. So it's a nice little buff everything with 1/1 counters. It's also just makes 1 generic, which can be useful. Overgrown Farmland, enters tapped unless you control 2 or more, so it's a slow land. Plains, Reliquary Tower, because you're drawing quite a few cards. I'm going to play around with this and maybe not run Reliquary Tower, because with the amount of cards you play from your hand, it's not usually needed. Sun Petal Grove, enters tapped unless you control Forest or Plains, which you play a lot of. And then Temple of Plenty, because it's Temple of Plenty, and Scry 1 is pretty useful. Let's go to the sideboard first. These are also just maybeboard cards, but it's a very powerful stacks interaction that you can play in these colors. First one is Linvala, Keeper of Silence. Flying, activate abilities of creatures your opponent's control can't be activated, which you're like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's like drawing a Linvala. I mean, it's Linvala from the card, right? But activate abilities of creatures is nice. Stop activations. Really, you only play it with cards like Nature's Revolt, or there's another one that I can't remember the name of, but it costs 1 less mana. It makes them 1/1s instead of 2/2s. All lands are 2/2 creatures and are still lands. It makes them 1/1s instead, but it's like $250. I'm like, this one works fine for what I'm talking about. This interaction will just turn off every land in the game that isn't your own, which is very strong. This just in. That's a pretty strong combo. It'll also make people hate you though, so I wouldn't recommend playing this. Yeah. On the maybe board, these are cards that either I was running in the deck at some point or I would put into the deck, or good examples of cards that I would put into the deck. Bird's Paradise. This and Delayed Halfling are like the two big mana dorks that I'm not running in the deck. Kind of because they're just more expensive and I don't think I needed more. Like, I think 4 was reliant enough to see in an opening hand, or with like 2 mulligans to see. Path to Exile was originally in the deck, then I was like, and do I need more removal? I mean, the answer is yes, you could always run more removal. Removal's typically just really, really strong, but I decided to take it for more creatures. Voice of Victory, and in a similar vein, Grand Abolisher. Anything that protects you on your turn, so like your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Grand Abolisher does that, and activate abilities. We're already running Kutzel, I believe, for that. I believe it's Kutzel. Does that. So yeah, this was needed. Also, it's not legendary, which means it's not tutorable through Sisay. But either way, this is a very, very good card. Arwen, Mortal Queen, enters with an indestructible counter, and then you can pay 1, remove an indestructible counter from her. Another creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and you put a 1/1 counter and lifelink counter on that creature, and a 1/1 counter and a lifelink counter on Arwen. So this kind of does like life gain, +1/+1 counter stuff. It's also protection, but only once. If there's any way to proliferate, like if we were running that landfall proliferate card in the deck, which I think would be kind of weird. No, it'd probably be pretty good. Then it would be a little more reliable, but I think just like a one-time indestructible thing, nah, kind of whatever. It's still pretty playable in the deck though. Eladamri. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You can cast creature spells from the top of your library. Both strong effects because you're running 40-something creatures. And then you can pay green, tap it, tap 2 untap creatures, which is also really easy to do. And then reveal a card from your hand or the top of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, put it on the battlefield, activate it only during your turn. So this can just cheat anything in from your hand or the top of your library once a turn for essentially 1 mana, which is very strong. 1,000-Year Elixir, any card that will like untap your commander and reliably goes mana positive is strong. There's another one that I can't remember the name of, but this one's in here because it essentially gives her haste. Yeah, anything like that would be very strong. There's 2 older artifacts that I was originally running that's like pay 2 tap to untap and pay 3, but I think usually when you're tapping your commander, you're seeing like 2.8 mana on average probably. I'm just gonna guess. I mean, a deck has 35 lands. Yeah, so 65% of the time you're gonna flip a non-land realist, which like isn't obviously perfect, but that times 4. Yeah, a little more than 2, less than 3. Guardian Project is whenever non-token creature you control enters, if it's not the same name as another creature you control, or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. There's just card draw. Mangara, I think is a really cool, diplomatic card, or politic card. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalker you control, draw a card. So this is a little more just card advantage when you're being attacked than whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. A very, very strong draw engine. I just didn't think I needed it in this deck. And then Elish Norn, Mother Machines, is the one that turns off ETB effects and doubles your ETB effects or triggered abilities off of something entering. So I do think this is a very strong card. It's also a very strong stacks piece, but I don't think there's enough value in the deck to really justify playing it. Sideboard Muse lets you untap your commander every turn, on your opponent's turns too, so you can generate a lot of mana on their turns, but there's really nothing to do with that mana. You can play the Omnath that saves your green mana and then cast a really big spell on your turn, but I think that's a little too specific for this deck, so I left it out. Obviously, board wipes, the deck's running 1. The deck should probably be running 3 or 4. I just didn't put them in because I wanted to run more permanents, and I'm greedy like that. And then Dazzling Theater, untap each creature during each other player's untap step, so this is similar to Seedborn Muse, but you can also have it so creatures you cast have Convoke, which is very strong when you have a lot of creatures on board. But yeah, that's actually just the deck. I mean, we can quickly look at Rex. I haven't looked too closely. I mean, yeah, obviously a Temple Garden and there's good lands. Heroic Intervention is obviously a really good card. So's Flawless Maneuver, I think it's called, the white one. Smothering Time goes in like every white deck. Eladrami's Call is a pretty good tutor, although I don't really know if you need it. Eternal Witness, returning creature from your graveyard to your hand is alright. I don't actually like Lightning Greaves because you're giving too many 1/1 counters to things. And yeah, personally, not a fan of the 2-mana ramp because you want to go 1, play Dork into 3. With something like Nature's Lore, you have to go 1, 2, ramp into 4, which is a little more awkward. Esper Sentinel is obviously a great stacks piece. There's that one. Oh, there's that one Selesnya card. It's like whenever you cast a spell, you destroy something. I'm not sure what it is. Or a shard. It's whenever your creature you control enters the battlefield under your control, you may sure target artifact or enchantment. This card's messed up. Play this if you really want people to hate you. Aetherflux Reservoir, probably also a really good card with the amount of life you're gaining in the deck. And it helps you gain more life, so probably a really good card. I guess the Utopia Sprawls and like the 1-mana enchants on lands are also good to ramp. Didn't actually think about that. In Still Energy, you can pay 0 to untap creature once a turn, only during your turn. Another good card, obviously. Sun Titan, probably not that great. Kenris Transformation is good removal. But yeah, I'm not going to go on because it's been 30 minutes. Holy moly. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back next week with another deck. And that's it. Yeah, bye-bye.